Good morning, afternoon, evening, whenever it is, wherever you are, and thank you once again for listening to the Backlog Busting Project. This is episode 12. My name is Wes Harrington. With me, as always, is Randy Isbelle.
And boy, have I been so ready for this month.
Yes. This is the first week in August, and on September 1st, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain comes out. So, for this month of August, we're going to be doing something a little bit different here at the Backlog Busting Project. We are still going to be releasing a new episode every other Tuesday this month. However, these episodes are not going to be Player Nay, and then we talk about our games, and then we do news roundup. No, these episodes are going to be completely and utterly devoted to games, specifically the Metal Gear games. We're going to be running through most of the mainline series in release order. So this episode we'll be talking about Metal Gear 1, Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake, and Metal Gear Solid, and so on down the line for the next two episodes, with some bonus content on the site itself as well. So,
and another thing that's different about this one than our previous ones, it's both of us have played all three games that we're going to talk about in all of these podcasts.
Yes. And we wanted to do this because Metal Gear Solid is both of our favorite series, pretty high up there on the list, I would say. So we really wanted to dig into one of our favorite series ahead of one of the biggest releases in quite some time, especially considering it kind of looks like it's going to be the swan song for, Metal Gear as we know it. Konami may, trot the corpse out every once in a while, but this is the last one Kojima's working on for the foreseeable future. Phantom Pain is.
Yeah, and from the looks of it, it seems massive.
Yeah.
So, I'm very much excited for that game.
Yeah. So, without any further ado, we're just going to go ahead, jump right into it, get started. And the first game that started it all came out for the MSX2 on July 7th, 1987. It is the original Metal Gear, developed and published, of course, by Konami. The MSX2 version is what would be called the definitive version. It's, the one that comes with Subsistence, Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence, or in the HD collection. So it's the one we're going to be referring to most often. But, as you're probably aware, there was an NES version which released December 22nd, 1987 in Japan, and June of 1988 here in the States. But again, we'll be mostly referring to the MSX version here during our conversations. So, this one, basically, there is a armed insurrection group, in a fortress called Outer Heaven, and they are building a, Metal Gear, a nuclear-equipped walking battle tank. The United States doesn't like this, so they send in their, covert ops team Foxhound to deal with it. At first, an agent by the name of Gray Fox, codename Gray Fox, real name Frank Yeager, is sent in, but he is captured after failing in his mission, which makes the the commanding officer of Foxhound, Big Boss, decide to send in a rookie by the name of Solid Snake to save Gray Fox and stop Metal Gear. So,
and that's where the game begins.
Yep. You play as Solid Snake, and you are infiltrating Outer Heaven to try and save Gray Fox and stop Metal Gear.
So let's get right to the big difference that Metal Gear was compared to other games of this time.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just call it a military game, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Military games focused on shooting and just blowing stuff up. And either going left to right or from south to north, just shooting things as you go, just on a rail, basically. And then here comes Metal Gear going, yeah, you'll have guns and stuff, but we hope that you don't have to use them, because they really wanted you to sneak around. And
yeah,
for a kid, that's tough to wrap your head around.
Yeah, that kind of difference in philosophy extends all the way throughout the series to a point, because I remember having that feeling about Solid sometimes, where I would get into an alert and all my gamer senses would be going, I need to stand and fight, And of course I would get my ass kicked, die, and go, okay, well, let's try that again. And try not to get seen this time. You know?
Yeah, and in Metal Gear, it is ruthless. If
Yeah.
you get caught, you're not going to win a firefight 9 out of 10 times.
No.
I mean, there's just so many enemies that get thrown at you, and that's the key is like if you sneak around, there'll be one enemy on the screen, but if you get caught, all of a sudden there's 6 or 7, and you're just outnumbered. So, I mean, so you have stuff like that, but what is something else that you saw in this game that you normally didn't see that really stood out to you?
In Metal Gear compared to games of the era?
Yeah.
A lot more emphasis on how do I want to put this? A lot more emphasis on like you move around in more dimensions than most games of the time. I think I'm gonna go with, because most games of the time you were kind of side scrollers almost, like you were locked in on certain screens. Whereas Metal Gear, you have more range of motion at all times. Most games I played during the Nintendo era, you would, on one screen you'd be moving left to right, and then on the next you'd be moving up and down. But Metal Gear, you had the ability to travel anywhere on the map. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and sometimes you get into the wrong truck.
Yeah.
You go back to the beginning of the map.
Yep. And have to do 20 minutes of gameplay over again. Yeah, that was always fantastic. So you come in and you're rescuing the hostages, and they're giving you information. Dr. Madnar, was developing this Metal Gear, and he was doing it against his will. Trying to finish this weapon, and you find Gray Fox, and he, tells you, yeah, Metal Gear's here, and it needs to be destroyed. And throughout this, you're kind of fighting some of the head honchos of the Outer Heaven forces, like Machine Gun Kid, or I think one of them's Dirty Duck, isn't it?
I can't remember if it was the remake version or the original version that was Dirty Duck, and which one was Coward Duck.
Yeah.
I think Coward Duck was the original name.
Coward Duck was the MSX version. I remember that now.
Okay.
Yeah, because I remember that specifically from this version, because when I did my run-through for this project, he actually knocked... something happened and the hostages died, so my class meter fell down. So I had to go regrind my class back up by going and finding the hostages again. Yeah, that was not fun.
So let's just go right into that. What did you think of the bosses in this game?
Not a whole lot there, honestly. Because, and again, I know I haven't used this excuse a lot lately, but product of the era. There just wasn't a lot of ability to make a distinct boss fight. Outside of like show-stopping final boss fights that you could devote an entire, map of memory to, right? Because a lot of the fights in the original Metal Gear are just kind of, do you have the remote-controlled missile? Yes, then you win.
See, I mean, no, I totally agree with there. Once you get the remote-controlled missile, most boss battles turn into that. Mm-hmm. But I kind of have to disagree on product of the era for variety's sake, because Mega Man was out by then, and Mega Man...
In 1987?
I'm pretty sure the first or second one was by then. The last one came out like 1990. So, I mean, I could be completely wrong, but I have a feeling that those Mega Man games were out there and things were different. But I totally agree that it was like every boss had its own feel, which, I mean, so they tried to make them all different, but it was just remote control missile. Yeah. It was, well, you have Dirty Duck, he's hiding behind the hostage. Well, just remote control missile.
Yeah.
Your facing a guy that's hiding between all these barriers and stuff. Remote control missile.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, the tank was a little different because you had to drop the mines.
Yeah.
What was it? The Harrier that you had to throw the grenades?
I think that's Metal Gear 2.
No, there's a Harrier on the roof of Metal Gear.
Oh yeah, no, that's a Hind D.
Sorry, Hind D.
Yeah.
On the roof, you had to throw the grenades too.
Okay.
And then...
Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah.
And then obviously the final boss against the Metal Gear, you had to drop plastic explosives in a certain sequence, which was different.
Yeah, that one was fun.
Which flashed back to the old days of playing in the 80s where you had to write shit down.
Yeah.
And if you didn't, you were screwed. Because there was, Magnar, I believe, right? Gives you the code of what order you have to do it, except for the last one, because...
He can't remember because he's old.
Yeah, he's so old he remembers, 13 of the 14.
Yeah, something ridiculous like that, yeah.
But I can't remember the last one. But anyway, so those were a little different. So there was a little bit of variety. They attempted, at least, but the remote control missile was basically the metal blade of Metal Gear from Metal Gear, or Mega Man 2, where you just use that and you win.
Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of the thought I had on it, gameplay-wise. A couple other gameplay thoughts in general. There are a couple of nitpicks I had with this game. First and foremost, the hovering enemies on the roof. There's no real effective way to deal with them that I found. So, and you were gonna get spotted by them almost no matter what. So it was just kind of like, okay, well, screw it, fuck it, tuck it and run, And I just felt like if you're not gonna give us a way to effectively deal with them, then just leave them be,
I found that a lot in Metal Gear. Where I don't know if it was just my patience was low, but like once you kind of figured out the layout of a floor, you would just say, screw it, I don't care if they see me right here because I can get to an elevator.
Yeah.
So in the MS version, you have two different modes of alert. You have the one exclamation mark meant all you had to do is leave the screen, and you were good. And then if you had two, you either had to kill everybody in that screen or go to a different floor. And then that would take it out. So, which added different variety to it, but again, once you kind of got used to it, and especially if your patience was thin, it was, I'm just running through it because I know in elevators, 2 screens that way, and I'll be fine. And if you really suck at the game, like I did,
and I did,
if you die enough times, you hear a wonderful noise, and all of your weapons are replenished, and all of your rations are replenished, and it basically goes, here, we'll help you out.
Yeah. And that's one of my notes, is there is less incentive to stealth in this game, which, the Metal Gear games has always kind of been more about stealth, because of that refill mechanic. Because if you stealth, you're going to have a difficult time getting enough, if you getting enough stuff to get out of situations if you get spotted, which is frustrating. But if you just bash your face against the wall until it refills, then you can just blast through it. So I feel like there's not really an incentive there to stealth anymore when they have the refill thing. And they fix it, kind of fix it, I think, in Metal Gear 2, which we'll get to in a minute. But, that was just kind of a downer to me that, there's not really a lot of options. I found myself missing a lot of the options that came in the later games for stealth. Because it was just, it was kind of feast or famine. Either you were going to get caught, or you would put the cardboard box on, stay still when somebody looked at you, and be fine. And it was just kind of like, well, that's not interesting.
And just to throw myself under the bus, the first Mega Man came out the same year as Metal Gear did back over in Japan.
Okay, so it was 87. Which, still, there could have been an argument for, them maybe trying a bit harder. But,
and again, I don't think it was them trying harder. It was just the remote control missile, again, was just so overpowering. That was just the solution. So, do you want to reveal the big reveal in Metal Gear?
No, you go ahead. I've been doing most of the story talking, so if you want
to... Samus Aran was a girl?
to...
No, wrong game?
Wrong game.
Oh,
wrong end game, sorry.
So, Big Boss, who has been helping you out the whole game, turns out to be the evil mastermind.
Yep.
He basically had taken over Foxhound so he could kind of put wrenches in their plans of stopping things and go, oh, man, we tried.
Yeah.
Like, putting...
And that's specifically why he sent Solid Snake, a rookie, because he figured Solid Snake would fuck up.
And then when he didn't, he tried to put things in his own hands. It doesn't work.
Yep.
Again, remote control missile takes out Big Boss.
Yep.
We think kills him.
Yep.
Then you go up the worst ladder system of all time. Basically, you have 3 ladders, you pick one.
Yeah.
But earlier, I believe a hostage tells you which one to pick.
Yeah.
But still, the fact that just put this in the real world, and there's 3 ladders, and 2 of them cut off before you hit the end of the wall.
Yeah.
And 1 finishes. It's just goofy, but video games. So you climb up, you head out, whole thing explodes, game over.
Yeah. So, there's some story beats there that kind of tie into Metal Gear 2, which we'll get to in a moment.
Yes.
But to kind of go back to gameplay a little bit, we did talk a little bit about boss fights, and again, because of the remote control missile being so overpowering, I found that I wasn't really having a lot of difficulty with any of the fights. Like, most of my deaths just came from, pit traps, or getting caught. I didn't really have difficulty with the fights because I could just missile them in the face.
Which is weird and a preview of our next podcast, but as we record this, I am currently playing through Metal Gear Solid 3, and that's kind of how I feel about that game. Like, I have yet to die on a boss, but I've died several times just being stupid around guards and stuff. So, kind of seems to be a trend at times. There are definitely bosses that we will get to in these podcasts that buck that trend.
Yeah.
But I agree, in the first Metal Gear, there really isn't that many that are that tough. Who's the one, so after you get captured, the boss after that point, I think, is the only one that gave me trouble, and that's really because you didn't have a lot.
Yeah, the machine, I believe it was the machine gunner.
Yeah. So that one I remember giving me some trouble, is just because at that point...
Shotmaker, sorry. Because he had the shotgun thing.
That's true. But that one gives me trouble, or gave me trouble, because again, you didn't have all your items. I don't think you had the remote control missiles at that point. So that one you had to think about a little bit, especially because the boss starts before you ever get your stuff back. And you have to go find your stuff while you're going through it, so.
Yeah, So, the 3 fights that I have as kind of difficult times, on my end, were the bulldozer, the Metal Gear fight, and the big boss fight. The rest of them really didn't give me too much trouble. But for some reason, the bulldozer, the Metal Gear fight, and the big boss fight gave me fits. Big Boss, honestly, I can't remember why I was having such a hard time, but the bulldozer and Metal Gear, I do. They confine you into a tight space where if you make even the slightest error, you're dead. The bulldozer is you need to immediately start shooting, and if you don't shoot enough, you die because the bulldozer, gets too close to you and you insta-die as soon as you touch the bulldozer. And then the Metal Gear fight is, the lasers are all over the place.
Yeah. The lasers I know, I definitely used a ton of rations on.
Yeah. But, yeah. It's weird because I don't want to say the original Metal Gear is a bad game. It's not by any stretch of the imagination. But when I compare it up against, when I compare it up against, the Solid series, I'm sitting there going, it's amazing that we ever got Solid. Because
I think we got Solid because of the next game we're going to talk about. And we only got that game
because of Snake's Revenge.
Yes. So basically, Metal Gear didn't really sell that well in Japan, but it sold very well here. So Konami decided to go along and make a second one, and Ultra, which is Konami's.
Yeah.
So they make the second one without Hideo Kojima. It's god awful, and Kojima finds out about them making a second game while on a subway train with somebody that works at Konami, telling him, "Yeah, we're making this game," and he goes, "Oh, bullshit." He goes home and starts Metal Gear 2.
Yeah.
Which we never get to see for
years and
15, 20 years before it finally hits Subsistence, which I have to say, I'm guessing we go ahead and transfer over to Metal Gear 2.
Yep. Let's go ahead and do that.
I am so glad that this got ported over, and I finally got to play this game.
Yeah. Yeah, Metal Gear Solid 2, Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake, is the, next game up on the docket. It, of course, was also on the, MSX2, also developed and published by Konami. It released on July 20th, 1990, in Japan. And, did not come out until, again, the release of Subsistence, Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence, which was, somewhere in the, late 2000s. So, this game, as Randy mentioned, came about, when, Hideo Kojima found out about the existence of, Snake's Revenge. And, actually the story I've heard is that the guy who worked on Snake's Revenge basically told Kojima, "Yes, I know Snake's Revenge sucks, but I want you to make another Metal Gear game because I love the first Metal Gear." Which is the, I know Metal Gear, that, Snake's Revenge sucks, but if you did a second Metal Gear game, it would be amazing. So,
and it is.
Yeah, it is. So, Metal Gear Solid, I keep saying Metal Gear Solid, because, so, Big Boss was presumed dead after the events of the first game, and Colonel Roy Campbell gets placed in command of Foxhound. And, the Outer Heaven incident kind of starts fading from memory, but, the world's oil supply is running low, and it's kind of starting to build tension in the world political theater. To counter the problem, another doctor by the name of Keo Marv creates a synthetic oil, compound, algae called Oilix. And he is set to reveal this groundbreaking new algae at a conference in America, when he is kidnapped by, soldiers from, Zanzibar land, which is a coalition kind of comprised of several South African nations banding together. And the intention is that Zanzibar land controls the Oilix, which the world desperately needs. So if Zanzibar land controls that, then they can get, more power on the world stage. So, of course, the world economy can't stand this, so Foxhound gets sent in, and Roy Campbell turns to Solid Snake. And that is where you start off Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake.
Yes.
So, we'll kind of jump back into the story here in a second, but gameplay-wise, I found this game I was about to say dramatically improved, and then my brain kind of stopped me. It does have some more stealth options than Metal Gear 1, because you kind of have, the ability to hide under staircases and whatnot. But at the same time, they kind of nerfed the cardboard box. Because for some reason, it is standard operating procedure in Zanzibar land that if you see a cardboard box just sitting out in the open, you shoot it several times before you check to see if anything's inside.
Yeah.
Which I kind of found hilarious, because it was just kind of like, that was only put in there because somebody went, hiding in the cardboard box was kind of game-breaking in Metal Gear 1. We should probably try to stop that. And somebody went, why don't you just have the guards shoot at it? Sure!
Well, what else are you going to do in Zanzibar? You got nothing else to do? Shoot things. That's what they do. But as far as like gameplay features that they've upgraded, they added the map, which was excellent.
Yeah.
I very much enjoyed that.
Kind of a precursor to the Soliton radar from Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, and especially when this came out in 1990, I mean, that was a big step forward. They added evasion mode. So instead of, you just have to leave the screen or whatever, you had to go hide for a little while, the timer would come down and so on. Obviously the graphics were better, the animations were better. I mean, all of those things you're going to get as they got a better grip of the technology. They added this thing, they only used it a couple times, but tap codes.
Yeah.
Which became a staple in some Metal Gear games.
Yeah.
You needed the instruction manual, which had the codes for the tap codes, which were basically kind of like Morse code.
Yeah.
In a way, just however many times you tap the first time, you'd go down the list, and then you'd stop, and then you'd tap again, and you go to the right, and that would be your first letter or number. And usually it was for frequency codes.
Yep.
But I just liked that it was something completely different, and probably sucked if you rented the game back then. I mean, obviously it didn't come to America, so it wasn't as big of a deal, but say you rented it from Blockbuster or something, and then you take it home and you get to that point, you're going, wait, what?
Yeah.
Because then back then, you don't have the internet, and so you're just stuck, unless, I'm sure they would have put it in Nintendo Power.
Yeah.
Or a walkthrough or stuff like that, but.
Yeah. So, do we want, let's go a bit more into the gameplay. Yeah. I do still have a few gripes about it, but first, like I said, it's amazing, it's actually kind of interesting to me that these games both came out on the MSX2, because Metal Gear 2 is such a step up from Metal Gear 1, it's not even funny, in all aspects. Like, the graphics are better, the weapons are a bit more varied, a bit less overpowered in some cases. Slightly better music. Still nothing memorable. I don't really think the music kind of started taking hold until Metal Gear Solid, though. So, not really much remarkable outside of the original infiltration theme from 1, which I still find myself humming. But, there are still a few kind of minor annoyances I had. There are some really bad, checkpointing decisions, like where the game places checkpoints. The one in particular that stood out to me as really that's what you're going with is, before the Running Man fight. If you die to the Running Man fight, you have to go 4 screens back and redo the entire swamp segment.
Which was my least favorite part of the game.
Yeah, mine too. Where you have to, either look up a map or just kind of tap, tap, tap. Oh, I'm sinking. Okay, go back. Try this direction. Nope. Okay, And
so basically, if you've never played this game, the swamp, everything looks the same. There's no visual cues. But some parts of the swamp you can walk on, and the other parts you would start sinking. And the animation that would or the time it would take you to kind of get back onto the spot that you could walk on took forever. So you'd hold down the button to try to get there, and then once you got on there, Solid Snake would walk really quick, and he'd be on the other side, and you'd start sinking then. And you just do this over and over while you figure out this path.
Yeah.
It drove me nuts.
Yeah. It was a pretty short drive for both of us, we'll put it that way, because, just having to do that several times in a row, because, you'd have to go back and do other stuff. I was just like, ugh. They couldn't have put in, like, okay, you did it once, now here's, now, you're done with it.
Hey, the swamp dried up.
Exactly. Either that, or like, well, hey, we finally marked the path, or whatever. Let's see here. There's the text speed. I don't know if you noticed this, but on some of the codec cutscenes, the text crawl speed would, like, be atrociously slow. Like a letter a second. Like, it almost reminded me of that one line from Final Fantasy Tactics that took, like, 10 seconds to reveal 2 words. And, and then, if you're impatient and hit the advance button, it would skip not only that dialogue box, but the next one too. But it would do it, really inconsistently. So there seem to be some issues with the dialogue system, in the subsistence ports, I guess I should say. I honestly don't have the capability to go back and play the MSX original, so I don't know if it was like that in the original. But in the subsistence port, holy shit. Yeah.
Okay, speaking of gripes, and I totally spaced it in the first game, but it happens again here. The keycard system is so terrible. I'm sure part of it is they couldn't code it that way or whatever. But I don't know why not. So basically you get different level cards.
Yep.
Obviously level 1 opens level 1, level 2 opens level 2. But why can't a level 2 card open a level 1 door?
Yeah. Yeah.
I understand that you have to have it out. Which I love how they fixed in the later series saying, well, the cards react to your body signature and then the door just recognizes it, which is BS, but at least I didn't have to hold it the whole time.
Yeah.
But in the 2 Metal Gear games, people would be coming after you and you'd see a door and you'd go up to it and you go, level 1, no, level 3, no, what other cards do I have?
Yeah.
And you have 7 cards in your inventory near the end, 7 or 8 of them.
Yeah.
And especially in the second one, there's points where you'll get to a door and this one's level 4, and then the next door in the same screen is level 1, and then the next door on the next screen is level 8.
Yeah.
And you just have to pick and choose.
Yeah.
Oh, God, it's driving me nuts.
Yeah. I can definitely see that. At least they made strides in Metal Gear 2 of fixing it, where there's a specific room where you can go to once you have the last in a set of 3. You can get a card that replaces the 3.
No, that's right.
Yeah,
And
you it's like red, green, and blue. I think are the colors, and instead of having to, go through 9 cards, you now just have the 3.
No, and I appreciate that they did do that.
Yeah.
But still, the fact that a level 4 card can't open a level 2 door.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. You're right. It is kind of a weird little thing. But other than that, I was enjoying a lot of the gameplay kind of quality of life improvements.
Yeah, a couple things that they did with the gameplay in this, and they were just small things. Mm-hmm. There's a point late in the game where you find 2 eggs, which is weird. Yeah. But anyways, all of a sudden, one of them hatches, and a snake comes out. And it's in your menu, you open up your menu and you see all your inventory items. Well, now the snake is going up and down your inventory. Which I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Solid snake, haha, I have a snake in my backpack. It's alive. And I'm thinking, at some point, I'm going to set the snake down and scare somebody. Or whatever. No! The stupid snake goes through your inventory and eats your rations.
Yeah.
And the only way you can get him out of your inventory is clicking on the broken egg when the snake gets there. Yeah. Which is fine. It's a clever thing. And then the other one is an owl, I think, that for whatever reason tells the soldiers that it's bedtime. Yeah. Even though the sun is in the sky. Yeah. But
that was amazing. Yeah.
Whatever.
There's a lot of those kind of, I'm going to call them moon logic puzzles. Almost reminiscent of a bad adventure game puzzle kind of thing in Metal Gear 2. Because there's that, make an owl hoot to make the guard think it's nighttime bit. You get a cassette with the Zanzibar Land National Anthem where if you play it, they can't attack you while it's playing because they're too busy standing at attention. You
find a girl's bathroom that has an elevator in it.
Yeah, that too.
Though, to give them credit, they do mention it in the game.
Yeah, Solid Snake goes, what the fuck? Yeah, not exactly, because fuck doesn't get uttered until Metal Gear Solid 4, anyway, and then, this game is so crazy detailed that you actually have 3 different types of rations, and there is a puzzle involving all 3 in the game. there's a puzzle specifically made for each ration in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one of them you feed a bird with, the other one has, one of them has chocolate in it, which neutralizes a puddle of acid.
Yeah, that's weird.
And then, I forget what the other one is. I think it's another animal feed segment, but, just that kind of stuff. There's a bit more, kind of puzzle gameplay, I'm going to say, to Metal Gear 2 than there is in Metal Gear 1.
And just this light touches, like you're in the sewer, and if you're in the water too long, you catch a cold. Which you then have to find the infirmary and get medicine, which I never found. So I played the whole rest of the game with a cold, which means every so often your character would sneeze, which of course would alert the guard in the room.
Yeah.
So that made things difficult, but I loved the little touches in it.
Yeah.
So what did you think? We've talked about all the upgrades in the game. Did they upgrade the bosses in your mind?
Yes. The first major one, I believe, is Running Man, which is...
Black Ninja's the first one, but...
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I didn't really find him too difficult, though, but the first one that really gave me problems was Running Man, for some reason. Because he runs across the air, runs around all 4 areas, and you kind of have to lay mines down in his path and hope he doesn't catch you. And, which is, a fair sight better than, the kind of reminiscent of the tank boss fight in Metal Gear 1, but better because the Running Man has a bit more range of motion. There's the hind fight, which you do with the Stinger missiles, this time around. There's, I've forgotten his code name, Red Blaster, where he's up on top and you have to throw grenades up at him.
Yeah, he's just hanging out in the rafters.
Yeah. The Four Horsemen, which was kind of like the precursor to one of the mini fights in Metal Gear Solid, where it's four guys in an elevator, coming at you all at once. Then some of the story, like the story final bosses, which we'll need to jump back here into the story here in a minute to get to those.
We had the guy that was invisible, but you had to listen to the sound he was making because each floor made.
Oh, Night Fright, yeah.
Which leads me back to another thing. There's a point in the game where you're walking across sand.
Oh God, singing sand, yeah.
Going back to the goofy things. They called it singing sand, and basically every time you walked, it made a weird noise, so you had to crawl at that point for whatever reason. So at least they went back to that later where each part of the floor made different noise, so you understood what section he was in. And then you had the one in the big field where
Jungle Fury, where he'd pop up randomly and start shooting at you, and you had to knock him with grenades,
I do have to say, I like the variety of bosses and where they wanted you to do different things, but kind of like the first Metal Gear, I found that I beat them all kind of the same. But I do, again, like that there was very much more of a variety in this one, especially once you get down to the final 2 bosses.
Yep. Which we'll go ahead and get to now by going back through the storyline. So, we left off, it was Solid Snake coming back for another mission to Zanzibar Land to find Dr. Kiyomarv and get the Oilix formula back. And he makes contact with Holly White, who's another operative trying to take down the place. And they're going through, and Solid Snake's facing down, like Running Man and the Black Ninja, and all these people, and they keep telling him that the guy who's running this place is really not that bad of a guy. He's taken in all the survivors from the outer heaven. He's taken in a whole bunch of orphans. And at one point, finally somebody reveals that it's Big Boss running the place because he somehow managed to survive the events of Metal Gear 1. So, and eventually Snake finds, while he's looking for Dr. Kiyomarv, he finds another familiar face. He finds Dr. Drago Petrovich Madnar from the first game. And at that point, Snake finds out that Zanzibar Land is indeed trying to build a new Metal Gear. So now he needs to not only recover Oilix, but if they have a new Metal Gear, he needs to stop And so Snake takes Madnar and I've forgotten her last name, but an enemy soldier named Gustava.
That's all I have written down, actually,
Okay.
for her name is Gustava.
Okay. But Snake and Gustava and Madnar go to find Dr. K.O. Marv, and they get to this bridge across the crevice, and the bridge is blown up with Gustava on it. And Gustava dies in Snake's arms, basically. And as Snake's mourning, he hears a voice yelling his name, and it's Gray Fox piloting a new Metal Gear. And Gray Fox goes, I decided to join up with Big Boss here, and I'll let you live if you just turn around and leave right now. And Snake obviously can't do that at this point, so he continues, he makes his way across the crevice, and he continues his search for both Madnar and Marv. And he finally finds Marv, but Marv has died. Marv has died, and Madnar has killed him.
Yeah, you walk in right as he finishes him off, basically. He has him like in a chokehold or whatever. I mean, obviously, 8-bit sprites, you can't show a lot, but...
Yeah, but at this point, Madnar reveals that he was willingly working on the Metal Gear instead of unwillingly like last time, and that he wants to get the Oilix formula as well so that Zanzibar Land can have complete control. Because after the events of the first game, Madnar thought he was going to be able to, ride on the success of, his projects and live a decent life in the West, but his theories got rejected and he had a really difficult time, so he decided to throw his lot in with Zanzibar Land. So, in one of the most frustrating fights of the game for me, Madnar then latches onto you and starts choking you out, and you have to use remote-controlled missiles to blow an old scientist off your back.
Yeah, that one made no sense. I mean, we talked about in the first game where that's what you used for all of them. Mm-hmm. But with this one, it was just so weird.
And the old fucker takes like 10 fucking missiles.
Yeah, and if you miss once, it seemed like you just weren't going to have enough time.
Yeah, so, because if you didn't have any rations, you were straight up screwed.
Yeah, surprisingly, one of the more difficult fights in the game.
Yeah, but, so you kill Madnar, and you've got a lead on the Oilix formula that you're trying to track down. And, you keep pursuing that lead, but finally, you get to the point where you face down the new Metal Gear. And its only weak point is its legs, which is revealed to you by Madnar as he dies, because he starts feeling remorse as he's dying. And the legs have to be destroyed with grenades. So you shoot all these grenades at the legs while avoiding getting death stomped, which made for a bit more difficult Metal Gear fight than Metal Gear 1's fight, I thought.
See, I had no problem with it, but I never stayed in front of him. I just went off to the side.
Yeah. Well,
I thought this Metal Gear was far more simple, and I think I beat it on the first try, but, I mean...
Yeah. And then, after you defeat the Metal Gear, all your items catch fire, so you have to go through and discard them. And, I actually had a few moments where, it glitched out on me. And, some of my stuff wouldn't throw out. Or if it was still showing us, was still causing damage even though it was shown as thrown out. So I actually died a few times because the game didn't recognize that I'd cleared out my inventory.
I had one, I feel you there, I had one moment where it wouldn't let me discard a certain item for whatever reason, and then I died because it just kept burning me.
Yeah. So, once you get past that, unintended boss fight, Gray Fox, challenges you to a fist fight in a minefield, which, I actually, maybe I just got lucky, but I basically stood in one place, and Gray Fox played Ring Around the Solid Snake, and I punched him a few times.
Yeah, it was supposed to feel way more epic than it turned out to be.
Yeah.
I mean, especially because unless you have the mine detector out, you're not seeing the mines anyways. So I kind of did the same strategy as I don't want to step on a mine, that would suck.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to kind of stand in this one little area and not really move that much. So as epic as that fight was supposed to be, and I found the conversation before it even more epic, because he's basically going, listen, we're both soldiers. We pick a side, we fight for him.
Yeah.
And he decided to go on Big Boss's side, which, as you said earlier, a lot of people were. A lot of people were taking Big Boss's side.
Yep. So, you defeat Gray Fox, and move on, and suddenly you hear a voice over the intercom, basically, and it's Big Boss, who has basically become a cyborg. Like, his entire body is now, metallic or, not organic, because of the extensive damage he took at Outer Heaven. But during the conversation before the fight, they kind of have a clash of ideologies, and finally Snake just goes, I'm going to end this. I've been having nightmares ever since Outer Heaven. I'm going to end them right now by killing you. And so that leads to a rather interesting kind of situation where you still don't have any items. Nothing you do is hurting Big Boss. So you have to avoid him and go through all the items, all the base, the doors in this area of the map you're in, and, keep piecing together pieces of the puzzle. Like, you find key card 1 in one room, which unlocks this room, which has, a ration in it, which allows you to neutralize the acid in front of this door. And finally, you end up with a couple of weapons, a lighter, and a spray can. And then you go Bart Simpson on his ass. Yeah, you use the lighter and the spray can and make an impromptu flamethrower and burn Big Boss alive. And after a few hits of that, he's defeated once more. And this time he stays down, but not before he tells Solid Snake that he is his father.
Dun dun dun.
Dun, yeah. Beat me to it. But, and this kind of, and Snake kind of takes this in stride, I almost want to say, and, he escapes the base with Holly, and they, kind of just fly off into the sunset in a helicopter after a tense little escape sequence.
But, before they fly off, the game throws one little troll moment. So you're running away, and they keep thinking you're gonna have to fight these guys, because soldiers keep popping up, but, for me at least, they were always far enough behind where it was, I never had to deal with them. But, there's a moment right near the end where they're like, okay, the helicopter's not quite here yet, you have to wait. So you're like, alright, I'm going to have to fend off some of these soldiers right before the end. So I went to the right to go kind of get a good angle at them, and there was another fall trap.
I didn't fall for that one. Fall, see what I did there? But, I did have kind of a panic moment because I was like, I was running low on ammo. Like, period. I was running low on ammo. And, so I thought I was going to run out before the game ended. And then I was like, well, shit, am I gonna have to sit here playing Whack-A-Guard for a few minutes? But luckily I didn't quite run out of ammo and managed to hold out. But, it was a rather interesting way to end the game, I thought. That being said, there were a few story nitpicks I had real quick.
Okay.
The first one is actually right near the start. In the opening crawl, it says that by the end of the 1990s, nuclear weapons are on their way out, like, period. And I'm sitting there, not only sitting here in 2015 where nuclear war is still a very, very real threat, but I'm sitting there thinking, even by 1990, people had to have been aware that nuclear weapons weren't going to be going away anytime soon. Not that quickly, anyway. So it kind of broke the immersion to me to hear Kojima go, oh yeah, by the way, by 1999, most of the nukes are gone. In 10 years' time, we're going to go from, I believe there were like 70,000 nukes in existence in the world at 1990 to zero. Or near zero. And I'm just like, no, sorry. It was just one thing I kind of noted. And then some of the more, this is kind of gameplay related a little bit too, but there's a segment in the game where, door has been painted over. Like, literally, the dialogue says painted over. And Snake apparently decides the best way to clear that off is with some plastic explosive. I mean, sure, that'll get rid of the paint, but that will also get rid of the door.
All he has to worry about is the paint.
Yeah.
The paint is in the way. Blow it up.
Yeah, I suppose I could see that, but I just had to make, when I saw that dialogue, I literally stopped playing, made a note of it, because I was just like, really? Okay, sure. But, and then the final story note I had is a bit more, direct and a bit, I feel it's a bit less nitpicky. I feel like the characters of Gustava and Holly could have been combined and nothing would have been lost from the plot.
Well, there's one thing that would be lost from the plot. Snake wouldn't be able to escape with the girl. Because, I mean, the Gustava death part is impactful and very a big focus of the rest of the storyline. After that, Holly was just kind of there. I kind of agree with you that they could have been combined in a way just because, I mean, when we would have discussions about the game while we were playing, we confused them a lot as far as who said what or whatever. So I kind of get you there. Holly's character just was kind of there to me. Gustava had a point, had a purpose, and she actually had a character. Holly to me really didn't.
Yeah. I kind of felt the opposite. I mean, yes, I understand that Gustava's death is kind of a drawing point for the rest of the game, but I feel like Gustava gets dropped in and then within 10 minutes she's dead. Or at least that's how it felt like to me when I was playing through. Because maybe I just hit everything just right, but I met Gustava, and then I went and got, Madnar, and then we went across the bridge, and she was dead all of a sudden. Whereas, maybe if they had introduced Gustava a little earlier and kind of had a little bit more time to, dole out some of this information a little bit more piecemeal rather than all at once. Because as it was, I kind of felt like it was, hey, here's a person with a tragic backstory. Oh, it's now even more tragic because she's dead.
But that's, I even wrote in my notes, that's just, the Metal Gear way. I mean, how many females have had just tragic backstories? Metal Gear Solid 4, that's the whole game.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that, the tragic backstory was bad. I'm just kind of saying, in the other games, like, I was about to bring up Sniper Wolf, but she's just as bad. But, I guess I would have liked to see a bit more piecemeal over a bit longer rather than just have it dumped all on me at once and then she's dead.
Yeah.
So, maybe not combine the two characters, but at least maybe if I feel like if I were making this game, I would have introduced Gustava a little bit earlier and piecemealed a bit more of her, because her story is she wanted to marry Frank Yeager, Gray Fox, and, get asylum in the West, but, everything was set to go, and then all of a sudden at the last minute, the West went, nope, no asylum for you, fuck off. And, that kind of sent her down the path of, not giving a shit.
Well, it also sent Gray Fox down the path of joining with Big Boss. So.
Yeah. So, it was just kind of like, that's a good reason for why she's here, but I think I would have liked to hear that, a bit more piecemeal instead of getting it all at once and then 5 minutes later she's dead.
Fair point.
So, we've already touched a bit on the music, in these games, not too memorable, outside of the original encounter theme in 1. Again, it kind of feels like the music didn't really start becoming a thing until Solid, which we're going to get to here momentarily.
Until they got to a system that could really bring out the music.
Yeah. Gameplay-wise, they both kind of felt similar. Metal Gear 2 kind of felt like Metal Gear 1 with everything dialed up to 11.
Yes, I totally agree. It was the true definition of it, a good sequel.
Yeah.
Do everything you did in the first game, just do it better.
Yeah. And, I think, these two games, while I don't really think you have to play them to understand, the rest of the series, it does kind of add context, especially Metal Gear 2 as linked into Metal Gear Solid.
Yes. There are so many things that were said in Metal Gear Solid because I played Metal Gear Solid a few times, but that just went over my head, or I just figured it was whatever backstory, and then I played Metal Gear 2 and went, oh,
yeah.
This is what they're talking about. Okay.
Yep. Okay, so that about covers the MSX games. If you do ever get the chance to own the Legacy Collection or the HD Collection, they're both available as bonuses for Metal Gear Solid 3, and they are both good way to kind of spend 2 hours, especially if you're a Metal Gear fan. Another thing we have been doing on these games is we have been tracking our statistics throughout the games. And going live with this episode will be our stats for these 3 games. And it's interesting to kind of compare them because we're still kind of plotting through the series at this point. But a pattern's kind of been emerging on how different kind of our playstyles are.
Yes.
Because I generally tend to go more for non-lethal, especially after Metal Gear Solid 2 kind of makes it easier. And I've been noticing you go a bit more lethal.
Well, I notice a bit more lethal, but I'm more cautious and I save more often than you do. And for the most part, I mean, we've had a few that were a lot closer, but I tend to finish games a little bit faster.
Yeah.
Which probably is more exploration than anything. And
yeah, because I have played I've played the first 3 Solid games enough to basically know them like the back of my hand. I straight shot through both 1 and 2. I got a little bit lost in Snake Eater, I'll admit. But 1 and 2, I was just like, whip! I know where I'm going. Yoink! So, speaking of Solid 1, we're gonna go ahead and crack into that now. This game, of course, once again, developed and published by Konami. Released September 3rd, 1998 in Japan, and October 21st, 1998 here in the United States. And basically, this game starts out with, we'll go ahead and do a bit of the how we got here for a moment. You start out being deployed by basically being shot out of a torpedo bay, which is fucking metal as hell, but in a unpowered recovery vehicle towards Shadow Moses Island on the Fox Archipelago in Alaska. And there's a nuclear waste facility there that has been taken over by Foxhound and Next Generation Special Forces. And their leader, their demands are that the government hand over the body of Big Boss, or they'll launch a nuclear strike. And the reason why the government may want to listen to these demands is that the president of ArmsTech, which is like a large arms research company, and the chief of the DARPA, which is Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, if I remember correctly, were both there for a visit. And the reason why these two are out for a visit is because, as you find out shortly after the game starts, Shadow Moses isn't just a nuclear research or nuclear waste facility. It's where the new Metal Gear Rex is being developed. And you are playing as the newly unretired Solid Snake. And that's kind of where you start off at in Metal Gear Solid. This game, I think, is the first thing people think of when you hear Metal Gear. Because, well, it's the first game that really took off. And I mean really took off. Like, when this game released, it became almost immediately a hit.
Yeah, it's tough to come up with a game on the PlayStation 1 library that had the impact that this game did. I mean, to the point where I remember I used to buy some of the PlayStation magazines and they would come with demo discs.
Uh-huh.
And one of the demo discs came with the Metal Gear Solid demo, which was basically up until you go through the first ventilation shaft.
Yeah.
So it's
the dock,
the
and
first
the
helipad.
Yeah.
And I probably played that more than the games I had at that time. I would just play that part over and over, just because it was so different for the time. I hadn't played any of the Metal Gear games before it, so playing this, the sneaking around and trying to figure out all that stuff, it was really cool. Just the things it did. I mean, the fact that with the PlayStation 1, you could be up in the helipad area and walk in the snow, and a guard would come by and notice it and follow your path.
Huh? Whose footprints are these?
But just the fact that you could follow the path along, and you could do that kind of stuff in the PlayStation 1 was just amazing.
Absolutely. So, a lot of the stuff that makes Metal Gear what it is today originated in this game.
Yes.
Like, surveillance cameras, being as ubiquitous, as they are. The heavy reliance on cutscenes, to tell a story. Almost to, the story and gameplay balance in Metal Gear has always been very heavily skewed towards story.
Yes.
But Metal Gear Solid is where it really started to become clear that you are here for the story. And you are going to be strapped in for a lot of this story. So, that being said, I think we should go ahead and keep going down the list on the storyline.
Go for it.
So you've infiltrated Shadow Moses, and your objectives are to rescue Baker, the president of ArmsTech, and DARPA Chief Donald Anderson. So you infiltrate the building via the dock and the helipad, and you crawl in through one of the ventilation ducts, and you make your way down to the basement where I believe you go after Baker first, you go after DARPA Chief.
DARPA Chief first.
Yeah. And you find the DARPA Chief, and you crawl through a few more ventilation shafts to get into his cell, and the DARPA Chief informs you that, if there was just a nuclear waste facility, me and ArmsTech wouldn't be here. This is actually the holding cell, the test zone for new Metal Gear.
Metal Gear?
Yeah. Metal Gear. But, and he tells you that, and then, tells you that's how the terrorists can launch a nuke, because that was one of the main questions Snake had going in, is how in the world are they launching a nuke from a waste site? And, and furthermore, you need 2 codes to activate it. DARPA has one, and Baker has the other, and DARPA gave them his code. And Snake goes to, leave, and after getting all this information, and the DARPA Chief falls over dead from a massive heart attack. Which freaks Snake out, but there's not really much he can do. Yeah. So he continues down into the next basement level.
Well, don't forget, that's where you meet
Meryl, yep.
Roy Campbell's daughter.
Niece, yeah.
Excuse me.
Well,
Meryl, and they have their whole little flirty scene, which happens in every Metal Gear game. And also you meet the
unluckiest guard in the history of humanity.
Whose name I can't think of.
Johnny Sasaki.
Thank you. Who is seen prone in the corner naked with his butt in the air.
Yep.
As he would do.
Yeah. After Meryl kicks the crap out of him. Anyway, so Meryl kind of blames you for killing the chief at first, but Snake convinces her I didn't do it. Then they escape a sticky situation with the guards, because the guards start to kind of come in, and Meryl makes her first kill. That sort of stuff happens. And then after that situation, Snake goes downstairs, finds newly cemented over holes in the wall that he then remakes into holes with C4.
So they weren't painted doors this time.
Yeah. They upgraded a bit to actual, reason to use C4.
Yeah.
And behind one of these holes, he finds ArmsTech President Kenneth Baker strung up to a pillar that is attached to C4 that will blow if Snake touches it. And as he's examining the situation, he is beset upon by the first member of Foxhound, Revolver Ocelot. And the Revolver Ocelot boss fight is one of the first examples of one thing that would become a staple of the Solid series from this point on is the boss fights are almost universally amazing.
Yes, they definitely stepped their game up at this point.
Yeah, because the Ocelot fight is basically an old-fashioned duel where you run around this square room trying not to hit the C4, but also trying to hit Ocelot.
So I will say, going back and playing Metal Gear 2, that the Ocelot fight reminds me a lot of the Black Ninja fight from Metal Gear 2. Just stepped up. Obviously, the graphics are better, the gameplay's better, and now you have a guy strapped to explosives in the middle.
Yeah.
But it reminded me a lot of this guy's moving around these spots, and you had to angle your shots correctly and aim and time them right and stuff. And yeah, for this fight with Revolver Ocelot, it seemed like he just ran around until he ran out of bullets, and then catch him while he's reloading.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, you defeat Ocelot, and after doing so, Ocelot attempts to get the drop on you and shoot you, but before he can, he gets his arm chopped off by a cyborg ninja, who seems to know Snake, but that's all that can be figured out because the ninja has a freak out and leaves. And Ocelot leaves as well. And by the way, I love what I don't know how I never noticed this before, but I noticed while I was playing through the game again for this project, Ocelot actually picks his hand up off of the floor and runs away with it. For some reason, I never noticed that he did that. I always thought he just left it there. But no, he has the presence of mind to pick it up and run screaming out of the room carrying his bloody stump of a hand. I was just like, oh hey. On a similar note, if you angle yourself just right in the DARPA chief's cell, when Meryl opens the door for you, you can actually see her preparing to get the drop on you, which I thought was a nice touch. But back to the point in the storyline we're at now. So the ninja's gone away, and Ocelot's gone. So Snake manages to get the Baker down from the torture device, basically, and he starts pressing Baker for what's going on here. Baker fills in a bit more of the backstory about the Metal Gear Rex project, why it's a thing,
showing a lot of live action video, which is a staple as well.
Yeah. Talking about, how much nuclear waste actually goes missing in a year, that sort of stuff. And Baker hands over a disc containing all the information from the exercise that Metal Gear did, and then advises you to get in contact with Meryl, but he's forgotten what her codec frequency is. And so Snake has all the information he can get from Baker. Baker tells him that Baker gave the terrorists his code as well, and that the only way to take care of it now is to either find all the PALC override keys or destroy it, and to destroy it he'll need the help of the main engineer on the Metal Gear product, Hal Emmerich. And so Baker tells Snake where to find Emmerich, and that he's going to need Meryl's help. And then Baker also dies of a heart attack.
Which, at this point, you're going, okay, something's up.
Yeah.
But, going back to having to contact Meryl, we go back to what they did in Metal Gear 2.
Yeah.
Where
copy protection. Let's be honest here.
Yes.
It was basically the earliest form of copy protection.
But instead of having to use the instruction book, on the back of your Metal Gear Solid case, one of the screenshots they used was a codec call between Solid Snake and Meryl. And there it showed the Kodak number, which is, I believe, the only way you can get that number pre-internet.
Yeah. I think eventually, I think eventually one of the guys might give it to you, but I can't remember off the top of my head. Because they were so thorough about alternate ways to beat some of the later bosses that, we'll get into that in a moment. But it would amaze me if they didn't have some alternate way to get Meryl's codec somewhere. But so you go back up to the main floor, contact Meryl. she opens the gate for you, basically. And you proceed across the field to the next building, the nuclear warhead storage building. But before you get too much farther than the outside door of the building you were in, you get a call from a mysterious stranger calling himself Deep Throat from the Watergate scandal, who says, there's Claymore mines around there, watch your step. So you crawl, you gather these Claymore mines, and you get up, and then all of a sudden there's a freaking tank in your way. Being driven by another member of Foxhound, Vulcan Raven, and a couple of the Next Generation Special Forces. So now you get to take on a tank on foot with grenades.
Which sounds tough, but what was it, 2, 3 grenades?
It's a bit more than that. I think it's like 4 or 5 on normal. But it's once you have the timing down, like once you manage to get a chaff off, to get up close to it, and then you have the kind of the positioning down to not get flattened while you're throwing the grenade, and get it into the actual cockpit of the tank, for lack of a better term, to damage the guy. Then you kind of have well, once you get everything lined up properly, yes, it's a pretty easy fight. But it's getting all those pieces lined up sometimes that's a bit of a pain in the ass.
I guess. I mean, it was an okay fight.
Yep.
So as you go across there, finally get across the field, you go down to the basement of that one, where not only are you now in a room filled with gas, the floor is electric, right?
That's the next kind of major puzzle area of the game, because after you beat the tank, and Vulcan Raven kind of talks to Liquid for a bit about, don't underestimate Solid Snake, yada, yada, yada. You go into the main building of the nuclear warhead storage building, and Naomi Hunter has modified your nanomachines to not be able to fire into the...
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, because it's nuclear warhead storage, and if you fire your weapons, there's a chance you're going to start making plutonium leak everywhere. So you have to get through that floor without being spotted, because then the gas turns on, and you've got guards on you, and you still can't use your weapons, so you're screwed. So you get past that, then you find that the way to Hal Emmerich is blocked by not only a gas-filled room, but a electrified floor. So you have to go find the Nikita launcher to shoot out the panel to stop the electrified floor. And then you have to run like hell, unless you found the gas mask, to get to the other side of the door, the other side of the floor, and get to Hal Emmerich. And once you get to the hallway outside Hal Emmerich's room, there's a whole bunch of guards that have been sliced and diced.
Yeah.
And you run into the Cyborg Ninja again, who goes into Hal Emmerich's office. You follow him in, and you have the ninja proceeds to scare the piss out of Hal Emmerich, literally.
A Metal Gear Solid tradition.
Yes. One person always pisses themselves. At least one person always pisses themselves during a Metal Gear game, which is fantastic, Totally what I want to see in my entertainment, people pissing themselves. But anyway, so Hal hides in a locker, and the ninja turns his attention to you. He still seems to remember you, but Snakes Hill has no idea what's going on. And during the course of the next fight, where you fight with the ninja hand to hand, Snake slowly starts to realize who this ninja is. It's Gray Fox. And after the fight, Naomi Hunter kind of tells you, a bit more about what was going on with that. And once you've beaten the ninja, Hal comes out from his office, tells you to call him Otacon, because he's just that big of a nerd. And then tells you, the PAL override will work. And, we'll try that first before I can tell you how to destroy it, because it's pretty hard to destroy.
Mm-hmm.
And he only does this after realizing, oh shit, I screwed up and made a nuclear-equipped tank.
Yeah, they did the old, scientist just wants to do science stuff. And
yeah.
His stuff gets turned evil where he doesn't realize it.
Well, this is something we'll kind of get into with, Metal Gear Solid 3 and then a little bit in Peace Walker, is the Emmerich family has had a really bad history with nuclear weapons. Because, I believe Otacon says his father was in the Manhattan Project. But basically the Emmerich family has always had a problem with nuclear weapons. And he wanted to avoid this, but ended up not. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he vows to help you out, but he needs a bit more time. So you leave there, and
you head back up and you find Meryl.
Yep.
Which, in a way, you can find her by the way she walks.
Yep.
She shakes her butt.
Yep.
But really, all you have to do is go hide by a bathroom, and then whoever goes into the women's bathroom, there you go. You follow her in. You have your little conversation about why she decided to become a soldier. Mm-hmm. And then you get to what is possibly the most iconic boss of this game.
Yep.
And that's Psycho Mantis.
Yep.
Who basically can read your mind, and they show you this by asking you to set the controller down, and he shakes it for you. He reads what's on your memory card, so if you had ever played any game from Konami, Psycho Mantis can tell you about it.
Yeah, like Castlevania, because I actually played this game after I played Symphony of the Night for the podcast. I still had the memory card. The memory card that was assigned to Castlevania Symphony of the Night was still my primary memory card. So, and I'd completely forgotten about it. So, Psycho Mantis actually managed to get me for once because he's like, so you like Castlevania, don't you? And I'm like, oh shit, fuck. Yeah. Hello. Oh wait, I have the Symphony of the Night save on there. Yeah.
Yeah, when I played, he goes, oh, you like Suikoden. I went, you've heard of that game?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Alright, I like this game.
Yeah. But, so, and then once the fight itself starts proper, you find that you can't hit him for shit. Like, he dodges your every move. And you know, if you're anything like me, the first time I ever played this game, you're sitting there calling Campbell, trying to figure out what's going on, and he finally says, I've got it! Switch the controller to the second port. So, you're sitting there like, really? What? And then you do it, and it works.
Yeah. That's what I like about the Metal Gear Solid games, is they have no problem going, this is a video game.
Yeah.
Here, hit the action button.
Yeah.
Switch your controller port.
Yeah. And then, we kind of briefly touched on this earlier, but if for some reason you couldn't switch your controller port, there's actually, one of the busts in, stone bust in Psycho Mantis' office is shootable, and if you shoot that out, it disrupts his powers.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's cool. You know, you know, that kind of stuff. So, you know, you take down Psycho Mantis, and he kind of reads your future, opens up the path to the communications tower. You go through that, and with Meryl kind of saying, you know, talking more about wanting to be a soldier to get closer to her dad, or, you know, that sort of stuff. And then she gets shot by Sniper Wolf, another member of Foxhound. And in one of the most annoying pieces of backtracking in video game history, you have to go from the communication tower, all the way back through the commander's office, up to the main floor, go through the main floor of the nuclear warhead storage building, back across the minefield, back down into the first building, back down into the armory, grab the PSG-1, and then get all the way back to the communication tower.
Yeah, at that point you're going, okay, I have to do this, and I'm going to run into another tank, or something's going to happen in that first level with those tanks are there, or I'm going to run into this boss, or I'm going to run it, nothing.
Yeah.
Not one thing happens, which is fine. I mean, it's a little bit of padding.
Yeah.
And whatever, and also I found it was difficult at times coming back, just because of the way the camera was. Mm-hmm. Especially because in where the minefield is, they've added a ton more mines since you left. Because they just knew you were coming back.
Yeah.
And extra cameras and stuff like that. But it kind of brings me up to my point. Other than this is where I kind of noticed, like, Metal Gear Solid, yes, it's known for its boss fights, but that's because that's all it is. It's, like, at this point of the game, you fight Ocelot. Meryl opens the door, and then you go out the door, and then boom, there's Raven.
Yep.
And then you go down a few floors, and there is the ninja. And then you go up one floor, and the very next thing you're doing is Psycho Mantis. And then here you finally get some backtracking just to give you a little bit of a break, and then you fight Sniper Wolf.
Yeah.
It's just boss. It's like a boss rush.
Yeah. Yeah, I can find that. I think they get a bit better with it in 2. Not so much 3, because I did feel like 3 was kind of a boss rush. But that's next episode. Getting back to Solid, so you get the sniper rifle, get all the way back to Sniper Wolf, shoot her in the face a couple times. She breaks off the fight, and you run towards the door she was guarding, and she somehow manages to get the drop on you while heavily bleeding. And with nowhere really for her to hide behind you if you look. And I'm sitting there like, you did so well with having Meryl shown on the field, when she gets the drop on you in the prison cell. But Sniper Wolf just kind of comes out of nowhere. And the guards just kind of come out of nowhere, which I felt was a bit of a step down. But anyway, so you get captured and drug off, and then you get tortured by Ocelot. And herein lies the branching path of Metal Gear Solid. If you give in to the torture, one thing happens. If you don't, another thing happens. We'll get into that here in a few minutes when we get to the end of the game. So, you escape the torture room and get back to, where you were, get through that door, and, I'm trying to remember what the next boss fight is. Isn't it it's the Hind, isn't it? Is the next fight after that?
Yeah, I don't think there's one before the Hind.
Yeah. So you go through the door, get through the communication tower, climb the longest set of stairs ever. And now that I think about it, the stretch between Sniper Wolf and the torture sequence and the Hind D is probably the longest continuous stretch of gameplay in the game. Because there's a lot of stuff packed into that area.
Yeah, actually there is. I agree with you.
But you rappel down the side of the building, that sort of stuff. So you go through all that gameplay, and you're still trying to stop the nuke and whatnot. You shoot down the Hind D using Stinger missiles, and now you're getting really close to the Metal Gear. And you get to a snowfield where you're about to get into where the underground base where Rex is, and you get shot at by Sniper Wolf again. And this time, you have another sniper duel with her, and this time it's more out in the open, it's a bit more open. But here's the thing about this boss battle that I don't think you knew going into this. I kind of told you this, and you kind of gave me a look. But the second boss battle with Sniper Wolf, you can beat without getting hit using the Nikita launcher. Like, there's an area you can stand off to in the side of the snowfield where she can't hit you, but you can hit her with a Nikita missile.
So basically, they go back to Metal Gear.
Yeah.
Hey! Just use missiles.
Yep. So you beat her, and, there's this subplot where I almost said Ocelot. Wow. Otacon's kind of got a one-sided crush on Sniper Wolf, and that kind of gets resolved with, do you think love can bloom on the battlefield? Which, given some of Snake's interactions with Meryl, maybe. But they tiptoe around that a bit. So you get into the base where Metal Gear is being held, and you get on the cargo elevator, and one of your team calls you and goes, "I don't trust Naomi. Here's why." And Naomi is revealed as a traitor. And once you get down the stairs, then you fight Vulcan Raven.
Oh, I just thought about the mini boss that was around the Hind thing, and it goes back to the Metal Gear games with the Four Horsemen, where you're in the elevator with the four guys.
Oh yeah, that stole Otacon stealth camo. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was another one that was right in there, but that was more of a mini boss. But anyways, go ahead with Vulcan Raven.
Yeah. So you fight Vulcan Raven, and that fight's kind of cool because you can use your Nikita missiles with him, or what I always did was I just planted a whole bunch of claymores and had him run over them. I never even thought of using the Nikita against him. I would always plant claymores or use C4, and when I knew he was near a C4, I would blow it, sort of thing. Which probably made the fight a bit more difficult on myself, but it sure as hell was fun. Because you can't really fight him head on because he has this huge fuck off, minigun that destroys most conventional weapons before you can get close.
Biggest backpack. Not backpack, what am I thinking of? Just...
Ammo?
Yeah. Like, just... It looks like a jet engine on his back.
So, you beat him and, move on. And then you finally get to the hangar where Metal Gear is being stored. And you kind of, look at it and go, holy shit, that's a big Metal Gear. And you work your way all the way up to the control room, and you see Liquid Snake and Ocelot talking about, what their plans are. That they're going to launch a nuke at China to give, to show they're serious, but still give the governments a chance to explain it away why a nuke just went off in China. And, and during this conversation, they reveal the trick to the PAL key that you've been carrying around since Baker.
Or the biggest padding in this game. I mean, yes, the backtracking was tough, or long, and whatever, but to go get these PAL keys, you have to take one back, basically to where you fought Raven, and freeze the key.
Yep.
And then take it all the way back, and insert. Well, you insert it the first time normal.
Yeah.
And you go back and freeze it, and go all the way back, climbing the whole Metal Gear, and sneaking by the guards again, whatever. So then you freeze it, and then you go back, and you heat it up.
Yep.
And then you do it all again. Just to find out that when you put in the last key card, you didn't deactivate Metal Gear, you activated it.
Yep. And at this point, we kind of didn't set this one up as well as the game did, but at this point, Master Miller calls you. And Master Miller was like Solid Snake's, somebody Solid Snake knew, was kind of a mentor to him in Foxhound in the previous two games.
Yes.
So when Master Miller called Snake at the start of the game, he was like, okay, sure, there's nobody I'd rather have in their foxhole than you, and you get advice from him during the course of the game if you call him, and he's the one that raises questions about Naomi's past, and gets her thrown off the team, and finally, after the PAL is active, Master Miller calls you and goes, well, gee, thanks to you, Metal Gear is now active, having it up, and which leads to one of the corniest lines in the series.
Which is a lot. You're saying a lot, right?
Yeah. But when Roy Campbell finally catches up and goes, that's not Master Miller, he was found dead in his home, and he's been dead for days. And Snake, you've been talking to me, dear brother. And then, did you like my sunglasses? That sort of stuff. But, anyway, so Liquid, locks you into the room, and, you have to call Otacon to get him to free you. And, during this entire time, you've been kind of getting more of the backstory behind the Metal Gear project. That it's a stealth designed nuke, able to launch stealthily from anywhere on the planet. The PAL key is shape memory alloy, all this stuff. And then finally, you're out of the room, you're in the clear, you go to fight Liquid, and he drops another bomb on you that you are brothers.
Not only brothers,
but genetic clones of Big Boss.
Yes.
With some of the genes meddled with, So.
And how, off the top of your head, do you remember how many they made? I remember they said they made 7 or 8 or 9 of them.
The super baby theory was there were 8 fetuses implanted into the host mother, and then all but 2 of them is what Liquid tells you get aborted to further encourage fatal growth. But anyway, he drops this bombshell on you, and then tells you how you've been played like a fiddle the entire time, basically. And jumps into Metal Gear, and you have to face down Metal Gear Rex. And Otacon then tells you, okay, you need to destroy the radome to get him to open up his mouth, and once he does that, you can just blow up the computer system, and it'll basically stop the Metal Gear.
Blow up the computer system, not the dude that's sitting behind the computer system.
Yeah. Dude can take, 10 Stinger missiles to the face, and, just be,
well, this is the same series that you had an old man hugging your back, and you took 10 missiles, so.
True.
Those missiles actually are really weak.
Yeah.
So they're full with jelly beans.
Yeah. So you get the radome mostly destroyed, but it's still looking like you're gonna lose when in comes the cyborg ninja, Gray Fox, to help you one last time. He tells you, that he didn't want, he didn't want any of this to happen. So he helps you by destroying the radome, and he dies for it. Because Liquid focuses fire on him, basically, kills him, and then you fight Liquid in the Rex. Shoot him a couple dozen times, destroy the Rex.
If you're lucky.
Yeah.
Oh man, that fight.
Yeah.
So many bad words were said during that fight.
I don't know what it is with you and the final bosses of Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2. You had some issues, whereas I mostly breezed through it.
Well, even you messaged me when you finally went back to Metal Gear Solid and went, okay, yes, the homing missiles suck. And I don't know, my timing was just bad. It also did not help that out of I don't know the exact number, we'll say 10.
Yeah.
So out of the 10 times that I died facing Metal Gear, 8 of them I was within 1 or 2 shots.
Yeah.
And then come Metal Gear Solid 2, which we'll get to next podcast, the same thing kind of happened. I was thinking you had to kill way more.
Yeah.
Then, we won't get way into it. But then when you told me that much, I realized, damn, I'm so close.
Yeah.
Like, I would just almost give up because I'd be one hit away from dying and going, I have so many of these to go. And then come to find out, no, you were really close this whole time.
Yep.
So I didn't have as much trouble as it was more just mental. But this one, for whatever reason, I'd get so close and then just couldn't get that last kill, that last shot in. So, but anyways, you destroy Metal Gear. It looks like everything's going to be fine.
And then things blow up and you get knocked out. And you wake up on top of the ruined Metal Gear with Liquid ranting at you some more. I'm
not caring that everything's blowing up around him.
Yeah. Like, he rants a bit more about the gene therapy and, genetic distribution and, genetics. And I'll be honest with you, I tuned out a lot of this. Like, I still to this day cannot sit through that cutscene without just kind of going, words. But, and then he finally goes, it's finally revealed that basically the government's going to nuke the place to just, forget the entire thing ever happened.
Yep. Testing accident. Yep.
And so Liquid just goes, well, we're both gonna die, so how about we just sell this man-to-man fist fight?
Because why not? What else are you gonna do?
Yep. And, this entire time he's had Meryl with him, and Meryl's unconscious. And he goes, she might still be alive, I don't know. If you beat me in time, maybe you can share one brief moment of love before, you get wiped off the face of the map by a nuclear bomb. So you have a fist fight with Liquid on top of Metal Gear Rex, which that fight to me was the bitch and a half for me for some reason. For some reason, I just could not get into a groove on that fight, and I would have basically the problem you were having on the Rex fight. I would get within one or two combos of killing him, and then I would just shut down. Like, not be able to finish it.
Yeah.
But anyway, you beat him, and then, depending on the choice you made back in the torture room, if you managed to not submit to Ocelot's torture...
if you weren't a pussy.
Yeah. Hey, I managed to do it this time. But,
I wasn't looking at you. I was just telling the audience.
Yeah.
Hit the button fast.
Yeah. But, anyway, if you manage to survive his torture without giving in, Meryl lives, and you escape with her. If not, she dies and you escape with Otacon. But, you are escaping the area because, after you beat Liquid, Campbell calls you, he's regained control of the operation, and he's called off the nukes. So you start escaping through the tunnels, and you think you're in the clear, and then Liquid starts fucking chasing you in another Jeep. Because the fucker just cannot stay dead.
That happens a lot in the series.
That's true. So, anyway, you finally, you shoot him a few times, and you both finally crash. And Fox Die, which you've learned is the thing that killed the DARPA chief and Baker, and pretty much everybody you've met was supposed to have died to this virus, but you, in most of the cases, you ended up killing them first by shooting them in the face. Or blowing them up. And it was engineered by Naomi. Anyway, so Liquid finally dies to Foxeye, and Naomi finally calls you and explains just, why she used Foxeye. And, the game ends with you riding off into the sunset on a snowmobile with whoever survived, while promising to make good with what time you have left, because Naomi doesn't tell you how long you have left, because Snake is infected with Foxeye too. And
well, Foxeye was mostly made to come after Snake because Naomi wanted revenge for Gray Fox.
Yeah.
Which was a big reveal later in the game as well.
Yeah.
And when it was supposed to go after Solid Snake, it decided to go after Liquid instead, which saves you right there at the end of the game.
Yeah. Well, no, it's supposed to kill Liquid as well, but Solid's still on the target list.
Yeah.
But anyway, so, it ends on a pretty, a bittersweet note, because theoretically, Solid Snake doesn't know how much time he has left, but at least he saved the day. So, that's Metal Gear Solid in a nutshell. Did we miss anything?
No, I think we definitely hit all of those points.
Okay.
Like I said, the gameplay here was very boss heavy.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Because the few times that it went away from the bosses, it felt more like padding.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a game like this where your whole purpose is to sneak around, I'm kind of glad that they didn't add more of those sections, where it's just a bunch of guards that you were hoping to get by.
Yeah.
So, it was one of those things that's like, hey, it's a sneaking game, we don't want you to shoot things, but we're going to throw a ton of bosses at you to keep you distracted and let you shoot and have your fun.
Well, I think part of that is just because they didn't, even though obviously the PlayStation was more powerful than the MSX, there was still not enough juice for them to get, some more of the stealth toolbox that you get in, 2, 3, 4, Peace Walker, etc., etc. You don't really have as many of the tools as you get in the later games to be able to have more variety of stealth.
Well, I will say, the stealth really didn't really take effect for me until 3. We'll get into 2 at the next podcast, but even then it felt like there wasn't a huge emphasis on sneaking.
Yeah.
There was a lot of sneaking in the game. I'm not saying that, but as far as if you don't sneak in this area, you're hosed.
Well, I was more thinking, if you don't sneak exactly this way.
Yeah. I agree.
Whereas in the later games, you have a bit more, options to be able to go, okay, I can stealthily take this guy down this way, or this way.
Yes. Yes, the first few Metal Gear Solid games were very linear in their thought process, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
And I will say, this game has aged pretty well.
Yes.
Especially for a PlayStation 1 game, which we have said many times on this podcast. Nintendo 64 games and PlayStation 1 games and the games of that era, like Dreamcast and stuff, usually have not aged well. That whole 3D era has not went kindly. And for Metal Gear Solid, for the most part, absolutely.
Yeah. So, I do have a few nitpicks here that will kind of close out the show on, I think. Metal Gear Solid is still a very good game for all the reasons you just listed. It's aged well. The story is still amazing to this day. The boss fights are pretty good. It does get a little patty at times, but what are you gonna do? But there were a few things that I noticed that maybe could have been improved on.
Yeah.
There's nearly 30 minutes of optional briefing footage that kind of gives information that you should have gone into the game knowing. Stuff like Meryl's relation to Campbell.
Yeah, but you know that pretty early on.
Well, it's kind of given to you as information you should know. Like, I think it originally comes out as, oh, by the way, Meryl and the Colonel are related. Whereas, and you don't know exactly how until later on in the game. Whereas it's just stated outright in the briefings. And then there's a couple other points that I'm blanking on off the top of my head. But, if you ever have the time, go and watch all the briefing files in the option in the menu in Metal Gear Solid, and some of this stuff you'll be like, okay, why wasn't this in the main game? It's mostly stuff that you'll know after having beaten the entire game, but it's stuff that would have been nice to know going in, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Snake doesn't make the connection between Naomi and Gray Fox until Naomi basically spells it out for him. Which is weird to me because Naomi's last name is Hunter, and it is made explicit in Metal Gear Solid 1 that Frank Jaeger sometimes went by Frank Hunter because Jaeger is the German word for hunter, or something like that.
Yeah, but...
And I'm just sitting there like, yeah.
So, because I know you, I just have to assume that you're related to Joey Harrington?
No, okay. But, after the Gray Fox fight, where, or right before the ninja fight, like, Naomi basically takes attitude with you for some reason. And at that point, I think it should have been clear to Snake. Like, I'm not just talking there was last name sort of thing going on, but I'm blanking on where the exact conversation is. But there's a conversation before Snake puts it together himself about Gray Fox, where Naomi basically dances around the fact that she knows what's going on, and Snake doesn't pick up on it.
Well, the fact that you're basically a puppet in this game kind of shows that Solid Snake is amazing in the field of battle.
Yeah.
But he's not the brightest tool in the shed.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to emotions.
Yeah. I suppose you have a point. Yeah. Let's see here. And then one last nitpick I kind of had that kind of falls into it's a video game and I should really just relax, but I still want to get it out there. How do Naomi and Campbell and the Codec team see what's going on? Because, like, especially with the Fox Eye stuff, it seems like they can see having, like the DARPA chief having a heart attack. Because Naomi explicitly says, without Snake describing what's going on, mind you, it explicitly says it looked like a heart attack. But, now, granted, given that it's Naomi and she knows that it's Fox Eye, it could just be a question of the character, knowing, okay, this is Fox Eye, it looks like a heart attack, so I'm just going to say it looks like a heart attack, so I, look like I'm doing my job. But that just ties into how do people not start putting the dots together on Naomi sooner, because if they can't see what's going on, then then somebody should be going, how do you know it looks like a heart attack? Snake hasn't said what's going on yet. If that makes sense. So, it was just something that I kind of noted, and I was like, all they have is the codec, which is, as far as I'm aware, audio.
Well, I mean, if you want to
world,
just go crazy in game world and go whatever, then maybe the nanomachines are in his eyes too, and they can see because they can control his gun and his ability to fire the gun in that one room.
Okay.
So maybe it goes a bit farther than that, and they just don't explain it. I mean, if you want to make an excuse for that, I guess.
Well, I just love how we basically just independently did what they did later on in the series and went, possible plot hole. Nanomachines!
Yeah.
Which we'll get into next episode, because we actually ran a bit longer than I thought we would on this episode.
Like a normal Metal Gear game.
Yeah. So, we will be back in 2 weeks' time for the second episode of this Metal Gear month, where we'll be covering Metal Gear Solid 2, Metal Gear Solid 3, and Metal Gear Solid 4. So that one actually is probably going to run real long.
And if you thought this podcast ran a little long, just watch some of the cutscenes.
Yeah, especially 4. Oh my god. But, if you have any suggestions, let us know and we'll try to take a look at them. Until next time, we will see you next mission.